Hello everyone, this is Yu Tsai. Welcome to Let's Talk, and it's Tuesday, so it's our special edition, Giving Tuesday. And on this time, we focus on people in the food and beverage industry and learning about the impact of pandemic on their businesses and how they are continuing to pivot and to keep the doors open for us to enjoy in the community, but at the same time still giving back to the people around them. This is a story that I keep hearing and echoing throughout that how a community have come together. So I'm so proud to be here to present my guest today. This is Hunter Evans, chef of Lily's.
Hello. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell me where you are right now. Are you in the kitchen?
I'm in our tiny office that is no bigger than a closet. So
And that's national. You're in Tennessee, correct?
we're in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. So sorry about that, Jackson, Mississippi.
That's all right.
So what's it like over there right now in terms of the state ordinance for the food industry?
So recently, maybe last week, most restaurants started to open up, and with all the guidelines, staff wearing masks, 50% capacity. We eliminated most of our tables so they could be 6 feet apart because we have a small kind of cafe, intimate restaurant to begin with. Servers, gloves. My kitchen crew is wearing masks right now, which isn't really required, but we have an open kitchen, and I just wanted to be, transparent. Somebody walks in, they can immediately see me and our staff. So, we're doing everything we can to be safe and take care of our staff.
And tell me a little bit about the restaurant. Tell me a little bit about Elvie. Tell me a little bit of history about the place and the work that you do there.
Yeah, so Elvie was my grandmother from New Orleans. I grew up visiting her. Jackson's about 3 hours north. So it was an easy getaway, weekend. My mom grew up there. We still have a lot of family. But really, I think what I remember is food was everywhere. And New Orleans is such a, vibrant city with so much culture that food plays, right into that. And I think as I was little, I just kind of was a part of that and really loved going down for Mardi Gras, crawfish boils, funerals afterwards. It's party and, lots of food. So I think that's really where I got that sense of maybe community in food. And growing up, kind of my parents' kitchen was like where people hung out, and that's where we did, that's where we socialized, that's where we did family events and whatnot. So Elvie's is located in a historic neighborhood in Jackson, and so we're in an old house, and I wanted to keep that same intimate home feeling, that you're coming into our home. We want to take care of you. We want to provide an experience for you to enjoy. So it was really, I guess, Elvie's was inspired by those memories of my grandmother.
I love that.
It's and kind of, I guess, I took her inspiration and kind of am telling like my own story. So it's kind of French cafe, but through the lens of like Southern ingredients and hospitality.
One of the most like delicious and robust menus. I'm sure French and Southern. There'll be a lot of butter in that dish. I can tell already.
Right. So I feel like I incorporate, some classic French technique, but we're not wearing the tall French hats, and we don't want to be kind of stuffy,
So this is a very community and family type of restaurant that you have. So kids are very welcome. This is a family establishment, so you invite the families in. Well, that's amazing because we know that going out to eat as a family is one of those celebrations that we all miss so much. So how has that impacted you guys in your physical spaces, also mentally? How have you been able to energize your crew?
Yeah, so Elvie's actually opened up January 31st. So we got, I think, 6 weeks under our belt before we shut down the dining room.
Wow.
But we had a lot of energy from staff and the community, super well received, had an awesome first month. So I felt like we, when we were kind of discussing what the next step is and how do we navigate this, I think one of the things we kept talking about was, we opened up to feed people, and we want people to come in to feed them. We love providing that experience. Just because our dining rooms might get shut down doesn't mean we're going to stop feeding people. And so that's when we first turned to work with a local organization called So Reap Feed, that I sit on the board on. And it's actually, the initiative is it's really like food insecurity areas, which is very common in Mississippi, where there's not fresh food available, whether people don't have access to it or they don't really know how to cook cabbage
Wow.
or fresh produce. So we teamed up with them, and we thought, well, the first people that will suffer are kids in school and those that rely in the public school system on their food and their meals. They kind of, immediately just lost those. So we packed 1,000 lunches and distributed them in the first week. We got a great response. And so we've kind of been doing things like that. We did a hog roast for healthcare, and we bought some local pigs to support the farmer. And then it was also a really great product to give,
Isn't that interesting that in the fashion industry I'm in, when your clothing store is closed, you just kind of close it and you let the employees go, and then you pray that the online business will continue to grow to kind of support the business. But in the food industry, really has turned upside down, where you guys are busier than ever. You frontliners, you're out there, and part of it is almost, I feel like it is something that you have to do in order to keep the energy flowing, because how can you tell a chef not to cook, right? How can you tell the entire team to come to a stop? And that's what I've learned, and so much on the show talking to you guys, is that you guys really went into this pandemic in such a different way. I know that I went through 2 weeks of just darkness and quietness and not know what my purpose is as an artist, and eventually I found Let's Talk, and this is the spirit. People ask me why I do it. I said, well, this is my fuel, be able to communicate with the communities I love, shed lights on community like yours, and along the way learning to be more kind through this time. That is my spirit to keep moving. And I think for you guys, especially for you consider a medium restaurant, a community restaurant, and it's so relatively new, this is a time that we really need the community to support you guys. And in return, you actually doing more work supporting the community. But how long can this sustain financially?
So yeah, we were kind of struggling with that, of how to engage, how to still provide an experience to our guests, even when they can't come into the restaurant. That we spent months designing and like picking out tile and doorknobs and like this small stuff, but that's unnoticed now. And we kind of came up with this idea that every weekend we were going to do a different pop-up. And it was really, there was a lot of benefits to it. One, the kitchen staff had something to look forward to, a different cuisine to try, a different culture to kind of learn about, to taste, to, just play around with their ingredients. Also to kind of highlight different cultures that I love. Like Mexico was one of the pop-ups that we did one weekend. And I didn't want to do just like enchilada and cheese queso, like I wanted, like the menu was in Spanish. I wanted like people to interact and figure out what they were ordering. And it, it's a huge success, because I think people were in quarantine looking for that kind of excitement to get out.
And when you say a pop-up, are you pop-up for pickup service, or you actually see?
So it was like curbside, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This is our menu. We did New York deli once, and just stuff that you can't really find in Jackson. We tried Indian food.
How do you reach out to your community being such a new restaurant?
Social media has been huge, and my business partner, Cody McCain, has done that. And I think that is, people are super engaging and want to be a part and interact even from home. And so social media has been huge for us to promote those. We started like a virtual wine club, just like Zoom in for people to have like a date night, once the kids go down. We've really just kind of tried everything to keep it exciting. So it's been really fun. Now we just opened up last Friday, like no more, we're still doing takeout, but we're kind of going back to our roots and like our own menu. And it's been a little scary to open the restaurant and 3 tables come in, and you're like, man, you get that gut feeling, of like, this is what every restaurateur kind of fears, of like not having people there. And then we got a call from one of the departments of the hospital that we took some of the lunches to, and they just put in an order for like 30 lunches. They said, we don't care, like, we want them Friday, $11 a person. It's just the small things. I was like, oh man, people haven't forgot about us. Or
Well, I think in the early first 6 weeks of the pandemic, we all stock up. People went to the store and cleaned out every single aisle,
right.
and people cooking at home. I believe that at least we're seeing now. For me, friends and families are beginning to say, okay, I feel more safe now that the restaurant industry is taking precaution, because I'm from the Asian community, and my family, when this first happened, we would definitely locked everybody down. There's a rule sheet at home for mom and aunties who are older, like no takeout, no food, no this restaurant, no this, and we send them like, okay, that particular supermarket has a hot spot, and just be careful. So, but now I do see that people are a little bit more relaxed, not because of the pandemic's coming to the end, but because I think that the restaurant workers and frontliners are taking that precaution to make sure. And funny enough, I know that 6 weeks ago, when you see somebody wearing a mask, and I, for example, experienced that, people take 3 steps back and afraid of you. They think that you are actually ready to transmit disease to somebody. And we went through all that issue, and just within the 6 week, now we feel safer when we see somebody with a mask on. So how we have evolved from that, it's crazy. But servitude, I think, is one of the most important thing, and one of the most heartfelt thing I learned in this series of talk, is that no matter what, even that 50% capacity, that's still not going to make your margin. But because the servitude is in your blood and you continue to do so, my biggest concern or worry is that how do you are government assistance coming in to be able to help restaurants like yours as small to medium?
Yeah, so we did get the PPP loan, and we used, I guess maybe we're halfway through the like 8-week clock that started, and we have to use it. So right now, that is one of the like comforting things, that okay, my employees are being paid, and we can, the little business that we were getting, we can just like build it back up. I guess it kind of feels like we literally are reopening a restaurant, but I think we were so involved in our community that when we first opened, I mean, we had wait lists, couldn't get a reservation. And now it's like, it's kind of back to like, oh, this is maybe what like actually opening a restaurant is, of like word of mouth, people slowly coming in, checking it out. So I've told my guys, like, we're going to keep doing what we're going to do, and we're going to put everything into it. And I think, we just have to believe that it'll pick up and buy into it.
Well, I'm definitely a believer that more you feed others, more other people will feed you philosophy, and the fact that during this difficult time that you're still feeding the community and making food for the first responder, first liner, that's incredible for me, and that's inspiring for me. I think we're all starting to find that common thread in the food industry that yes, some choose to use the avenues of digital media and go online and cook with people. I think that's so inspirational to watch. And at the same time, the people that are physically in the restaurants and the hot rooms and still cooking for everybody else. There's something that I think that we don't hear enough about on the everyday news, because food definitely has been a common denominator that have tied all of us together. And I love the fact that you can be here with me and talking about this, because there are so many different ranges of business out there, and they are hurting in many different ways. And what I've learned is that through that pain, everyone is still feeding the community, and that's incredible. How I do want to ask you a quick question about the supply chain. How are you dealing with the supply chain of groceries?
Yeah, so I guess previous restaurants I worked at, we used a lot of big chain distributors, and I really enjoyed meeting all the farmers that I would do for specials and local meats and vegetables and all that. And so when we opened Elvie's, from day one, I was like, I'm going to use this farmer's meat, and there's so many benefits to that. One, we become good friends. They have a party on the farm. I go visit the farm. we actually went right before we opened, and we were like vaccinating the cattle. Like, I don't know how many chefs have vaccinated, the cows. But now it's kind of interesting because I was paying, when I made that decision to buy local meat, I also knew I was going to be paying more for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay with it because it was better quality. And now, as the pandemic has continued to grow and whatnot, the big distributors and the meat processing plants are shutting down or going to half capacity or whatever their guidelines are. And their meat has doubled in price. And now I'm paying less for local meat. And, I feel really great about that and supporting them. And it's just, I think the systems that we surround ourselves with, when they're not convenient anymore or don't really work for us, then, perspectives change. And the food chain is definitely one that a lot of people rely on. And the local farmers have continued to feed people in the community and have their products that are, have not been compromised.
And we hear that a lot, that even on the flip side of the story with these big chains, a big corporation that's processing meat, because the supply had dropped so fast once that equilibrium never found itself. A lot of cattle and meat and are wasted, are just big for different reasons. One, that if they sell them at low price and they're going to suffer later. So economics, the crazy stuff. I don't want to get into detail of it, but we do know a lot of waste have happened during that time, and it just baffles me that knowing that there are farms out there destroying food products to maintain the price margin for the future, but where so many people out there can be fed. But I do see the meter starting to move. I do see people starting to really support farm to table, true farm to table. I think if anything comes out of this, and if a silver lining coming out of this, is that we all, one, more aware of what we put into our body and what it affects us, and we really do appreciate good food within a nice bowl. It just, I think we all at that time that we're done cooking for ourselves. We need you guys more than ever. And congratulations. I know that you are expecting a new member to your family.
Yes, our first child. We're having a little girl in September, and we actually went this morning for a checkup, and she was looking great. So
you're gonna be able to tell her amazing story during this time.
I know. It's like open a restaurant, have a kid, then close the restaurant, go through a pandemic, in 9 months. So,
well, if you can get through this, you can get through anything. I feel like that's what we can do.
For sure.
And well, thank you so very much for continuing to help the community around you, and thank you so much for just sharing this story with us, because I think that's what we need to do, is all just keep talking about it, because we're all going through it. Because I know in the beginning of Let's Talk, everybody comes on and go, everything's great. Yeah, I have to do this, but I have to do that, I have to do Zoom meetings. But we kind of hide behind that facade. And when I begin to be able to hear people's journey, that it is hard and it is scary, but along the way that we are sharing kindness, along the way we're feeding people. And I think that is the best way of healing, is to feed someone and take care of someone, and someone else do the same for you. And I know I have a friend, just one day to drop off food on my drop off a sandwich package, and goes at my door and just waves, I'm leaving, I'm not talking to you, I'm listening, bye. And then we have the sandwiches over FaceTime, and it's that was our get together, and food is everything. And thank you so much for being part of the chain, and thank you for not breaking the chain of supplies and helping so many out there while you keep doing what you do.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Well, thank you so much, Hunter Evans, for sharing the story. And I cannot believe his restaurant just opened for 3 months and having to go through a close down, shut down, as everybody else has, and now reopening up. So I encourage everyone out there in your community, look at restaurants, look at different food providers out there, how you can continue to order from them and help them, because we got to keep the community strong. And the fact is 50% of the companies, restaurants out there may not be able to make it through this pandemic. So whatever you can do, as they said, order from them, and gift cards helps. Thank you guys. Come back and join me.